By Eric Nixon. Hi Eric.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, and tell us a little about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Eric Nixon, 4 children, live on the Wirral. Been in professional football for 20 odd years. Played for Man City, Tranmere Rovers, Stockport County, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Carlisle. I'm actually in the Guinness Book of Records for the only player to play in all 4 divisions in one season.
I saw that.
In the history of football.
86 to 87.
Yeah. I didn't get into the Man City team because I was a young kid coming through from non-league. So I went on loan to Wolverhampton Wanderers in the 4th division. I think Ryan Little was the manager then. And then from there, I was there for 3 months on loan. From there, I came back, still didn't get in the side, went to, needed football, needed experience, needed to play. So I decided, Bradford came in on loan. Trevor Cherry was the manager then actually.
Right.
I went on loan to Bradford for a month, played 4 games I think, again came back, still didn't get in the side. I think Perry Suckham was in the side doing quite well. So I went to Southampton, funny enough, Southampton on loan over Christmas period. Peter Shilton had broken his nose, so they were looking for someone. Tim Flowers was still injured. So they were looking for someone to go and play there, so I decided to go and apply my trade there at Southampton. Played 4 games. Man United was my debut for Southampton, drew 1-1.
Right.
Played against Chelsea, Oxford and Highbury against Arsenal. Did quite well. Obviously Tim Flowers got himself together, Peter Shilton got himself together, came back and played, so I obviously went back. And then I went to Carlisle. Fortunate enough, I went to Carlisle for 3 months under the guidance of Harry Gregg, which was an experience for me. Very pleased to be under his guidance. Played 3 months there, did quite well. And then I got called back to Man City for the last 7 games. Played for Man City and really enjoyed myself. So that's something that I don't know whether it was any good or any bad at the time. Everybody wanted me but City at the time, but then they wanted me at the end. So
yeah.
I was quite pleased. I got a lot of experience and it stood me in good stead through the 20 years as a professional footballer.
How was your time at Man City? They were in the 1st division at the time, or floating around?
Yeah, 1st division. I think when I joined them, funny enough, the reason the story, what happened was one day I was actually how I became a Man City player. It's actually in the book, and obviously my autobiography is on the move right now.
Right.
But I actually walked in there and asked for a trial Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock.
You just walked in on your own?
I just walked in, yeah. I was playing for Curzon Ashton, non-league. I was running to work, running home from work. I was fit. I was confident, playing non-league. And I just decided one day, and actually I was a car valeter for a company, and I was valeting a car in opposite Old Trafford, Quicks for Ford.
Right.
And a fellow walked in. I'd done this car 4+4 Sierra Sapphire for all morning, black one with black windows. And then about 1 o'clock this fellow walked in, blonde hair, suntanned, picked the keys up and drove off on it. And it was Gary Bailey. Since then he's obviously a good friend of mine. Yeah. But I didn't realise at the time, and I thought to myself, a bit like Yozzie Hughes, I could do that.
Yeah.
So I does no more, and on the way home I drove past Main Road and I parked the car up, walked up the stairs of the hallowed turf, being a Man City fan, and saw Libby and Julia, who were on reception right then, and they sort of looked at me and said, well, what do you want? I said, actually want a trial. Who are you? I said, I'm Eric. And that was it. She made a phone call. And these 3 fellas started walking up the corridor towards me like 3 hyenas, taking the mickey out of me. You can imagine Friday afternoon. Yeah. Taking the mickey out of this fella who's marched up the stairs, and it happened to be Ken Barnes, Tony Buck and Dennis Law.
Amazing.
So from me walking up the steps, before you know it, I've got 3 fellas walking around taking the mickey out of me, asking me why I want a trial and what I want to do. Fantastic people, all 3 of them. And then they watched me play for Curzon Ashton. I think Ken Barnes sent somebody down to watch against Buxton in the FA Cup on the Saturday where we got beat 5-0.
Right.
And I thought that was the end of my dream. So fortunately enough, I got a phone call from Ken Barnes on the Monday. Can I play against Barnsley on the Tuesday night at Main Road, which obviously made my day.
Wow.
So I was quite.
How old were you?
I was 21 and a half, I think, at the time. I'd actually walked in and asked for a trial. So I played against Barnsley, did quite well. I managed to train with the first team for the next sort of 3-4 months, end of the season. Played all the reserve games in the Central League through that season. Alex Williams was in the first team, Joe Conning had just left. I was in the throes of leaving, and then I managed to push myself into the first team for the last game of the season, which was Stockport away in the testimonial, and I gained a contract from there. And the rest is history, as I say. It's all in my autobiography for people to read about.
What's your autobiography?
My autobiography is due out, and hopefully, hopefully it's out in hopefully Christmas, but if not, maybe May, April.
Is that the name?
The name is Big Hands, Big Heart by Eric Nixon. So it's out there. I'm sure we'll get it in the goalkeeping.
I'm sure it will feature, in the next few months when it's out, definitely. So you one of the, I don't know whether it was maybe a toss-up between City and Tranmere where you spent the most time at. Would you say Tranmere?
Yes, I would. I mean, I had some great times at Man City and some great times at Tranmere Rovers. I mean, as a professional footballer, you can imagine it was something I never thought was going to happen. I always wanted to happen, but for me walking in that day, you never know what would happen.
No, of course.
But I had some fantastic times at Tranmere Rovers and met some lovely people.
What was the what was the main differences? Was there any differences playing in Tranmere and City?
The difference was, I think in my opinion, the difference was, I mean, when I was at Man City, I came from non-league and I was basically a number, whereas I never got the respect I was due as a player prior to, because I think that's what happens to most players when you go through the ranks. You're only a kid coming through.
Yeah.
I mean, we had players like, I mean, the reserves and youth team in our game. We had like Paul Molden, Paul Lake, Steve McCauley, all these players, Paul Simpson, Beresford. All these players were playing for Man City's youth team and reserves on a regular basis. I'd come from nowhere. And I'd had 3 great seasons in the first year, don't get me wrong, and they played at all the major Liverpool's, Everton's, Man United, done it all. But I just didn't think things were going right for me. And really and truly, if I'm honest, I think that sometimes if I had an agent or a friend or somebody to guide me, I might have stayed at Man City and fought for my place instead of throwing my toys out the pram.
Right.
But don't get me wrong, no regrets going to Man City,
No.
to Tranmere Rovers. Had some fantastic times. We had some absolutely. Johnny King, best manager that's I played under. Fortunate enough to meet a lot of friends, and what he bought players that were everybody thought were over the hill or maybe a bit indisciplined, and gelled them together as a team, and basically we put Tranmere Rovers on the map.
Right.
Through 10 years of pure success.
Yeah.
Friday night football, floodlights on, 13,000 gate, knowing that basically you had the next day to relax and watch everybody suffer and sweat because we'd get the point in the bag, which is what we did throughout the 10 years period. And to captain them in 1991 against Bolton Wanderers in promotion was an absolute dream come true.
Amazing.
Fantastic times, yeah.
Now, we've spoken to a load of goalkeepers over the past few issues. They've all said the same thing, that goalkeeping is, or goalkeeper is quite a neglected position. Most of them either never got goalkeeping coaching, or got it quite late on in their career, by which time they'd picked up bad habits. They had to unlearn what they'd learned and get trained by someone who knew what they were doing. I mean, have you found a similar thing in your time?
The one word for me for goalkeeping now at this moment in time is neglected. Goalkeepers, whatever
still
you say,
neglected.
Yeah, whatever you say, wherever you go, whatever club you go to, unless it's Premiership, obviously, they're neglected because it's still 1 day a week, 2 hours here, 1 hour there, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
For me, goalkeeping is an art. It's something that's got to be nurtured. You've got to bring them through as kids and understand their strengths and weaknesses. But I've turned on its head. I mean, when I was playing, it was a case of the defenders understanding the goalkeeper's strengths and weaknesses, which foot to put him on, is he going to come and get this? Now, we need to understand every person outside. I need to understand their strengths and weaknesses because I'm the one that's in control of what's happening in front of me. The goalkeeping's changed. In my day, I've been very fortunate. I had Gordon Banks, Joe Corrigan, Pete Shilton, Neville Southall, all these players that have been there, seen it and done it, coached me. But to be true to them, and Jim Barron, another one, to be fair to them, these were players that it was a specialised position. Get them in the corner, smash the ball as fast as you could, as hard as you could, and see if you can hold it.
Yeah.
No disrespect to them, that's the way we were brought up. But in the last 10 years since I've been playing football, I've got my A licence goalkeeping, A licence football, an FA tutor as such, Cheshire FA tutor. So we've been taught the right way to go and teach the kids, which is what it's all about this day and age, and bring the kids through and nurture them and understand the strengths and weaknesses within of different goalkeepers and what it's all about.
Yeah. So I mean, what would you bring to coaching that, say, Neville Southall or Pete Shilton or Gordon Banks didn't do?
Well, with all due respect to them, as I say, you know, until obviously we had this. I mean, I was a pioneer of the goalkeeping A licence in 1998 at Lilleshall. There was 20 of us that went and passed it. So I don't think I would bring anything that they wouldn't do or wouldn't have done. I think it's all, if we're all relevant, we're just saying that basically what we do this day and age is we work more on strengths and weaknesses as regards what a goalkeeper needs now. You know, it used to be in my day, in Neville's day, it used to be quantity, now it's quality. You know, it used to be top corner, bottom corner, how fast can you get across, and let's do a million of those until you're very, very tired. This day and age, the way I goalkeep and coach my goalkeepers, I coach them on quality, not quantity. So I'd rather get 6 good reps than 12 bad reps in anything we do. So we're looking at how we can achieve what we want to achieve. We have a plan of action. You look at their game plan and we look at it afterwards in game situations, and we get them to look down and see, you know, in certain situations and starting positions, and could you come for the cross here, and information communication, and work on SAQ, which is speed, agility and quickness. You know, there's lots of things and ways and new methods that you've got to adapt to this day and age, because if you don't, you'll get left behind.
No, absolutely.
And I still think that goalkeeping to a degree is neglected as such, and I think there's a lot of goalkeepers out there with a lot to offer that are not being asked the questions. Yeah.
We've just had a weekend of some outrageous matches, most notably the United match, the 8-1? 8-2. So Wojciech Chesney was in goal for Arsenal. What's your opinion of this generation of European goalkeepers?
Well, I must admit, I was one of these people that always went for homegrown goalkeepers, British goalkeepers, bring them in, let's make sure that they play the game. But I've changed my opinion now, because it is there's some good European and some good worldwide goalkeepers out there, and they're going to come into the Premiership and they're going to filter down. So we've got to make sure our homegrown goalkeepers are going to be as good, if not better, than these keepers, and there are ways and means of doing that. And as I've said before, there are a lot of goalkeepers with a lot to offer that are sitting out there, not working, not doing nothing, that are not getting tapped into. I do disagree sometimes with managers when they come out with statements such as we've got to bring these players in, because the only reason they're bringing players in is because they're a little cheaper than what that are out there at this moment in time. I don't actually see coaches anymore on a Sunday morning getting hold of the kids and looking at these games and suggesting that they might bring them in for trials, because I think, you know, even at youth team level, they're coming from France, they're coming from Brazil, they're coming from wherever they're coming from. Whose fault is that? I don't know, but the book's got to stop somewhere, and we've got to start bringing our kids through British and start coaching in the correct manner. Being an FA tutor, Cheshire FA tutor, obviously talking to Martin Thomas, who's a friend of mine, and Ray Clements, they're all for this. It's just a case of getting the facilities to be able to do this, and getting the funding as such to be able to get these coaches out on a Sunday morning and out on a Wednesday afternoon and looking at these kids and seeing exactly where we can fit them into the coaching manual, really.
What do you think it is? Do you think it's ignorance of the position, or is it lack of resources, or it can't be lack of money? I mean, what do you think is the main reason for?
I think basically, with all due respect to the managers, they're looking after their jobs and looking after their interests right now, and I don't think they bring the young kids through where they should bring them through, to give them an opportunity to play in maybe the reserves, or when they have a first team versus reserve team, bring the kids through and ask the question and let them make the mistakes when they need to make the mistakes. And when they do make the mistakes, have somebody there that can correct the mistakes for them. Because as I said before, from the very first statement, it's neglected, still neglected. There's not enough people around to understand the way the game's played at a certain level. I mean, there are goalkeepers and there are shot stoppers. For me, a shot stopper is somebody that won't come for the cross. They have to make the shot, they have to make the save after the headers come in, and there's goalkeepers that come for the cross, and then as soon as that comes, you can actually react to what happens around you, because people then need to react to what you do rather than you react to what they do. And that's what I've said when we turn the game on its head right now. It was always a case of us reacting to what players do around them. Now they've got to react to what we do. Because when I come and catch a cross now, my first thought now is, where's my full-back gone? Is the midfield player coming to show? Is the forward coming to show? It's no good kicking over the top of defenders anymore, because the ball's so light, it's just going to go straight to his goalkeeper. And I think this day and age, you can throw a football further than you kick it at times. So we're looking at distribution from throwing, distribution from small passes, keeping the ball, understanding the way the game's played. Because I think a goalkeeper understands the way the game's played sometimes more than, if not more than, an outfield player. Because he has to distribute, he has to understand the way he's played.
Yeah. Have you seen any improvements in, say, because you're working at Tranmere till quite recently. Were you coaching there?
I've been coaching at Fleetwood Town actually for the last 2 seasons.
Sorry, yeah.
I was coaching at Tranmere Rovers when John Aldridge was manager.
Yeah.
The physio, who was obviously the physio for 20 years when I was there, was Les Parry, who's now the manager.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine, he seems to be doing a good job. I've seen some young kids there that could have a little look at. Dave Timmins is the coach there, he's a good friend of mine as well. But no, I was at Fleetwood Town up until recently. I'm actually out the game, looking to get back in the game now this moment in time, but nothing seems to be out there.
No.
But I seem to understand that I had a kid come from Morecambe. I had two of the best, in my opinion, two of the best non-league goalkeepers at my club, Danny Hurst and Scott Davis. Always vying for positions, always vying for the same position. In fact, the manager would give them 6 games each because he had to keep them happy as such.
Right.
Danny's gone on to play for Barrow now.
Mm-hmm.
Done a fantastic job for Fleetwood Town. He's doing a great job for them. Young Scott Davis, when he came to the club last season, he came from Morecambe. I think he played sort of 3 first-team games and got released. Wasn't having the best of times, so I had to discipline him, understand the game, the way the game's played, and he ended up playing for England at the end of the season. So I'm quite happy in his progress. And there's plenty of goalkeepers out there. It's just a case of understanding, getting the goalkeepers who've been there and seen it and done it to understand what is needed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's plenty of retired goalkeepers out there who could do that job. They don't seem to be getting employed though. What do you reckon the main thinking behind that is?
I don't know. As I say, there's lots of goalkeepers out there that don't seem to be getting an opportunity to coach the kids, whether it's funding, whether it's something that, I mean... Andy
Gorham actually did say he didn't want to teach kids.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand kids.
Yeah, I don't mind kids, I used to be one.
Yeah.
But as regards... you can coach at any level, but I like to coach senior pros. I mean, obviously I've been a pro all my life.
Yeah.
I like to coach senior pros and be in a professional club, and I think there's opportunities out there that... The problem being is by the time the opportunity is putting out there, it's sort of the job's gone as such. But I mean, you've got to pull there's the old managers, which is fine. I haven't got a problem with that. Sometimes you've got to just deal with what you're seeing, keep your head up and keep going. But when you think that, in the last 10 years I've been out and got my qualifications as such as a licensed coach, goalkeeping, football, petals, kettles, personal training instructor.
Yeah.
There's lots of strings to my bow, but people seem to look at me and go, goalkeeper, which sometimes is a little bit of a hindrance.
So maybe they think that you've obviously got your own habits, got your own way of thinking, got your own opinions that might not fit into their culture.
Which isn't a problem, but sometimes I feel that maybe you're allowed to have an opinion, but it depends who you're dealing with. Obviously, dealing with different managers with different prospects, different aspects, and what they need out of a goalkeeping coach. But a health and fitness coach, nutritional advisor, I've got all these under my belt, I've got the qualifications. It's just a case of people see Eric Nixon, they see a goalkeeping coach. I mean, with the A-licensed goalkeeper and A-licensed football, you can manage the team tomorrow morning. It's not as if you couldn't. But we'll just have to see what goes on. But I think there's an awful lot of. I should be in the game at some capacity, that's for sure.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. How optimistic are you for the next generation of English keepers? Or British keepers, should I say?
Well, speaking to Matt and Thomas and going on these Cheshire FA tutor courses, I'm positive that the kids are coming through. You only have to look at Joe Hart and Ben Foster and people like that, that are coming through and doing the job for us, which is great. And again, I'm all for the Europeans and the worldwide goalkeepers coming in, but I can't see why our kids can't do that. I just think they need to be nurtured in a different way. I think it's a different type of goalkeeping. I've seen a lot of punching these days. I don't know where that's coming from, but I don't advocate that in any way, shape or form. We used to ply our trade, me, Andy Gorham, Neville Southall, Joe Corrigan, Alex Williams, we used to ply our trade on somebody getting the ball out of the feet and smashing it 100 miles an hour. And once you've caught that ball, you've done your job. That's what you spent the last 40, 50 hours through the week doing.
That's what you're there for.
Day in and day out, to ply your trade. He's sick, you're gutted, your distribution's gone, all of a sudden you feel good in yourself and it's a fantastic feeling.
Who's your favourite British goalkeeper at the moment?
At the moment, I've got to admit it, I like Pepe Reina. I think his all-round ability as a goalkeeper.
He's Spanish then?
Yeah, he's Spanish, but did you say British?
British.
Ben Foster, I like him.
Ben Foster.
Yeah, Ben Foster, but I say Ben Foster. I mean, Joe Hart's going leaps and bounds, isn't he? English goalkeeper. It's great for the game that Joe Hart's come through.
Yeah.
I'll change your mind, I'll say Joe Hart, because he was actually on loan at Tranmere Rovers.
Right, you've got a...
He was on loan at Tranmere and he came from Tranmere back to City. But I think, if you look at them two goalkeepers, I know Matty Gilks is Scottish, but even he's come on leaps and bounds, hasn't he? You know, he's done really well. But I think the future's looking good, the future's looking bright. We just need to look at these type of keepers coming through, and I think, with all due respect to managers, maybe somewhere on the line, someone's going to get a hold of these young goalkeepers and get out there and start looking for them. Because there are players out there that are looking to be able to get out there, ex-goalkeepers as such, and players that have played the game, to go and look on these Sunday mornings, but they can't go and do it on fresh air. You know, it needs to be subsidised, it needs to be funded, and I think that's where the problem lies. But there are goalkeepers out there. I mean, only yesterday I went to watch Wrexham and Fleetwood, and you know, only at half time you see these youth team games going on and kids going on. And so one or two young kids that I thought, even to myself, he's not bad and he's got a chance of playing the game. Only at a young age, but that's when you need to get hold of them this day and age. But they're out there. It's just a case of getting back out there and finding them now. And you know, again, I can't advocate it any more than I am doing. I'm all for European and world goalkeepers as such, but I think their game is totally different from our game.
What about there must be about, I get 10 emails a day from goalkeepers all over the place asking how do they get to be a better goalkeeper, which is, you know, an impossible question. I think they need guidance in drills, coaching tips, that kind of thing. I mean, what's your advice?
How do we get to be a goalkeeper? Playing games, playing football. Practice all the time, yeah. Playing games, that's how you make mistakes, make honest mistakes. If you make honest mistakes, you know, you'll be a better goalkeeper for doing them. If you bury your head in the sand and think you're right and not listen to people around you, you've got no chance. I was fortunate in that, I mean, as I say, I've been very fortunate. I've had lots of good coaches and I've followed good goalkeepers throughout my career and been able to take bits from them. Peter Shilton, Neville Southall, you know, all these people that you think and have been world goalkeepers I've actually trained and played against, so I'm very fortunate. A working lad coming from Arparay, living in Withington, to have played on the world stage as such, you know, been around the world and tours and lifted trophies at Wembley and played at Old Trafford and Anfield and Goodison and Chelsea and Aston Villa, and I'm very fortunate.
Living your childhood
I've
dream.
lived the dream, and it was a dream, and I lived it, and I made it happen myself because I walked in there and asked for it myself. And I'm very fortunate that happened. And if I hadn't walked in there, then I wouldn't be sitting there talking to you right now.
Sure.
And when I'm a coach, if somebody asks me the question, they say, "Can I come and have a game? Get your boots on." No problem. Yeah. As long as you're honest with people, they'll be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of coaching, I mean, what would a typical session with you involve?
Hand-eye coordination, speed, agility, endurance, stamina work. I always like to basically get involved in defensive play as well, because I think the goalkeeping coach is a defensive coach as well. I don't think it's just, you can't just pigeonhole him into being a goalkeeping coach. And, you know, you've got to organise defenders around you, you've got to organise, in a phase of play or in a small-sided game, you know, shot stopping, stopping shots, information, communication, letting people know what the difference between a shot stopping and a stopping a shot is, and understanding distribution, when and where to give. But then, as I've said before, you know, it's no good me catching the ball from across and a centre forward running 40 yards the other way. I want him to come so I can play to feet, so midfield can get the ball off him. I'm talking a bit coaching wise now, but the coaches out there will understand what I'm talking about. You know, you need to be able to find people with your throw, find people and make runs around you so that people can understand your game rather than you understanding their game as such. But you've got to manipulate the game to your advantage and make things happen, and don't just wait for it to happen. No. You know, it's like in training when certain things start to happen and it's 2v1 or 3v1 and balls start flying past you. You've got to start readjusting your game so you can make things happen for yourself, and it's going to work. So instead of 5 beating you at once, 4 beat you, but you've got that one boxed off.
What about concentration? I've been speaking to some keepers say that they've got the same level of concentration throughout the game when the ball's right next to them and when the ball's, you know, at the other end of the pitch. Neville Southall said he's got like a traffic light system in his head. When it's green, he's on full alert. When it's red, he can switch off for a bit because it's at the other end of the pitch. So he says there's no way you can concentrate fully for 90 minutes.
Well, that's it. I think if you're focused when you turn out into a game situation, you focus on what you see in a hand. And this is what I've said before, you've got to understand certain players' abilities, as to, with all due respect to players, you know, sometimes you might think, well, he's got half a chance of losing that ball, so you've got to be switched on, whereas another player might be comfortable in midfield, and you might say, well, hang on. But my biggest bugbear is getting in behind start positions and behind defenders. You know, and sometimes you've got to sort of say to midfield players or defenders, you know, you've got to actually entice that ball over your head. And you've got to say to them, well, go on then, do it. But you're aware of it, so it's a double bluff to begin with.
Sure.
So the double bluff kicks in. But I think if you're focused in any game situation, you understand situations, certain situations around the pitch, and you're always going to be focused. I mean, I used to just basically look at when the ball's in the last third. I still see keepers to this day, when the ball's in the last third, shouting it's got nothing to do with them, that.
Yeah.
Leave that alone. Worry about your back four. Worry about your two central midfield players. Is it safe if that breaks down once that ball comes in? Is your start position spot on? If that ball's played over the top, don't have your full-backs and don't have your centre-halves running 20 yards towards you. Get them running 20 yards in diagonal positions so that you can play the balls out to them. Once you've played the ball to them, think about your support. If he loses possession, can he go back out that way? Start thinking in terms of being a football player, because if you can't play with your feet at this day and age, you've got no chance.
Mm-hmm. No, that's what Andy Gorham said. The concentrate on your feet as well as your hands.
The size of his feet, you would concentrate as well.
Yeah. Right, and just to wrap up, we did this feature in the latest issue 3, the 50 greatest goalkeeper moments. We had loads of people contribute over the past few weeks. What's one of your favourites?
The greatest goalkeeping moment for me would be the Huita scorpion kick.
The scorpion kick, yeah.
I think he brought a whole new dimension to goalkeeping, to be fair. I don't think he was the best goalkeeper in the world, but
No.
I think he brought entertainment value to goalkeeping.
He was a show-off, yeah.
Not even a show-off. I think the fact that he could do that and he achieved it on the world stage.
Absolutely.
It mesmerised people, didn't it? You know, and the fact that, you know, he did it against England at Wembley was something that is and will be shown for a long, long time to come.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to get. I don't think anybody should advocate and try and do that in any way, shape or form, but I think
I'd break my neck.
most people do think goalkeepers are eccentric to say the least, and he brought the best out in what he think everybody thinks we are. And you know, we've got to look after our own selves at times. You've got to be the biggest, you've got to be the strongest, you've got to be the fittest, you've got to be the most outspoken, because at the end of the day, the buck stops at you when it goes past you. You've got to look after your own instincts, and I think that's why sometimes people don't understand goalkeepers. Only goalkeepers understand goalkeepers.
Yeah.
What they've had to go through, what they've done. And that's the difference with outfield players. And they all think we're nuts anyway, so we may as well be nuts.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Harry Nixon. And we'll probably be back with you to review your book when it comes out.
Great.
Cheers.